and water flowing hard, the land we call our home. Push to keep the dark from coming, feel the weight of what we owe. This, the song of sons and daughters, hide the heart of who we are, making peace to build a future, strong, united, working till we fall. The air and water flowing hard, the land we call our home. Push to keep the dark from coming, feel the weight of what we owe. This, the song of sons and daughters, hide the heart of who we are, making peace to build a future, strong, united, working till we fall. And we all lift, and we're all adrift together. Through the cold mist, till we're lifeless together.
After months of waiting, Warframe fans have finally gotten the chance to visit Fortuna, a dank dystopian cyberpunk-themed work camp in a terraformed corner of Venus. Following an intro video, which features a work song catchy enough to get stuck in your head for days, you're introduced to a small cast of tropish but likable characters. Now, if you haven't played through the main quest yet, the next part will contain spoilers, so go ahead and switch the video off if you like. Still here? Alright. The story that plays out through Fortuna is essentially one of a class struggle, with a lone aristocrat named Nef Anyo controlling the working class who have been sent to Fortuna to work off their debt. They work in the settlement itself and in the frozen outlands known as Orb Valis. Anyo uses the threat of repossession in order to keep the populace from questioning or disobeying his orders. Unlike repossession we deal with, Anyo is repossessing body parts from the part human, part cybernetic indentured laborers, meaning they're no longer able to work, which means they can't pay. Now, this level of threat keeps the workers in an endless cycle, especially considering the end of the opening cinematic implies the debt interest rates are always rising and wages are always falling. Challenging this system is initially led by Thursby, a charming if not predictable scamp whose noble assumption of his parents' debt left him in the endless servitude cycle Fortuna trapped so many others in. Thursby starts by asking you simply to help him out with his chores so he can make a little extra cash a little quicker, hoping to get him out of debt faster. But once he realizes the power of the Tenno, what he does is decides to challenge the system. He wants to sabotage some of Nef Anyo's things and machinations, let's say, that keep the people of Fortuna down. Warning against stirring the pot is Yutiko, who does have a bigger part to play. But she starts off simply by warning Thursby that he doesn't need to do anything to rock the boat. She doesn't want to see him hurt because she cares about him and the people of Fortuna. She wants to know everyone's going to be safe, and she feels like if Thursby does go ahead with asking the Tenno to assist, people are going to get hurt. And she's not wrong. Along the way, we're also introduced to the business, or Biz as they call him. Now, the business is kind of an older member of the crew who kind of knows something about Yutiko, and it's revealed through their interactions that Yutiko actually used to be a kind of spokesman for resistance against Nef Anyo. The business actually encourages Yutiko to kind of return to that role, which she sort of starts to fall back into. Now, while she does, she starts encouraging the Tenno to do more risky things to disrupt Anyo's business. No pun intended. Once she does that, Anyo actually catches on and ends up taking Thursby because he finds out that Thursby was the initial one who started the sabotage. Now, it is kind of sad, but don't worry, Thursby does show up later as the character Legs, which is pretty funny. Basically, they repossess his whole body, but they take his core, his personality, and put it into a Moa. However, upon Thursby's initial kidnapping, Yutiko decides it's time for a change. She decides to take up the mantle of the Solaris Vox, the voice of the Solaris, the people who work in Fortuna, to fight for the right, as she says, to give credit for their work. And it's kind of a cool idea. For the first time in Warframe, I feel like I'm not just fighting because I'm supposed to. I'm not just carrying out this sci-fi epic story. Not to say that any of the story is bad, but not just carrying out this story. Now I feel like I'm fighting for a people, for a part of the world that's being treated unjustly. And I think this is a great thing because it does make the world kind of feel more alive. Instead of in Plains of Eidolon, where you just kind of stumble upon this town and then this big open world area that is just a part of this town, you feel like you're helping people. You feel like you're helping characters that are a part of this universe that you're in, and you're fighting an injustice. You're lending your superhuman power to this fight for justice and freedom for a people, which is a great, great story turn. Now, housing all of this, including Fortuna itself, is Orb Valis. Orb Valis is a terraformed Venusian landscape, much like the landscapes we see on Venus already. It's a lot of gray, a lot of snow, but it feels different from the Venetian landscape that we're used to. Instead of kind of feeling cramped inside of valleys and things like that, we have this big, open, isolated world, which is really beautiful. It's one that feels lonely. It's one that, when you're traversing the landscape solo, you can travel large sections without seeing a single enemy or other player, and it really feels like you're out there. You're in the middle of nowhere. You're kind of just discovering things upon this empty, barren wasteland of frost and snow. And I want to be very clear, I did enjoy Plains of Eidolon a lot, but I felt like there was no urgency in anything that I did in Plains of Eidolon. It was just kind of like, you stumbled across this place. It contained this big open area that was linked to it, and you could get reputation with the people there. It's kind of like you walk into a town and you walk into the bar and the guy goes, "Hey, go do this. I'll like give you some money," and you go, "Cool." And that's basically it. And then he'll give you better jobs for a little more money later on. Yeah, you get gear and all that. But here, again, tying into the sense of helping a people, you really, really want to explore this landscape and see what you can find and scope out, because it might help you in this freedom fight that you feel that you're fighting for the people of Fortuna. Now, I know I've talked about the isolation and the kind of the snow and the ridges, the rock, but another brilliant touch that Digital Extremes has put in is the plant life that's spread throughout Orb Valis. The giant mushroom trees in particular scream of the Thundra Plateau from Breath of the Wild to me. There's not only these giant mushroom plants, but there's also the lowland vine growth, which kind of add this, this disease, this growing disease, but it's vibrant and exuberant among this drab, snowy, rocky landscape that's presented behind it. It really provides a stark contrast, and it really makes these plants stand out. Aside from that, the lakes are beautiful. I love the use of water. It's fairly sparse. There are a couple of larger bodies of water, but overall it's something that's fairly minimal. There's no huge bodies that you just have to run all the way around. Every body is kind of like a little reservoir, and you feel like it could be part of this outcropping that this work camp might be using as just a water source for the people. On top of all of that, one of the absolute coolest things I feel is the orbs, or the giant spider monsters, machines, I guess, that roam the countryside. Now, unlike the Eidolon from the Plains of Eidolon, you don't know when these are going to appear. It's not like, oh, they only happen at night. You may be traversing in the middle of the day and you will see an orb just show up, and you'll know because you'll hear this grinding machine sound in the middle of this snowy, kind of windy area. And it's really, really, really terrifying to come up on one of these, especially if you're not prepared. If you're low on health, low on shields, low on ammo, anything like that, and you come up against one of these orbs, you're definitely going to want to just turn around and go the other way. It really gives you a sense of fear and a sense of imposing danger, no matter how ready you think you are, which I think is a great, great addition. Something that even the most dedicated player, I feel like, would feel like as a challenge at least their first couple times. I do want to say I've put about 10 hours so far, if not a little more in. I work quite a bit, so I haven't had as much time as I'd like, but I've been playing this as much as I can since it came out. And I do have to say, my favorite part so far, probably 2.5, 3 hours, has been spent on the K Drive. Now, the K Drive is a new form of transportation in Warframe. It's essentially a hoverboard that lets you traverse the map and do tricks. You can even grind and do flips and spins and all these kinds of things for reputation with the Vent Kids, another set of characters, really reminiscent of, those kind of scampish orphans of like Dickens tales or something like that. Really kind of cool. I would kind of note them as like Dickens characters meet droogies. It's a really, really interesting thing. But their whole thing is they just want you to get out there and bust out on the K Drive. And I have so much fun just jumping, and sometimes I'll eat it. I'll just not even come close to landing, but it's so much fun to go up mountains, go down mountains, go over vines, like grind on big enemy, encampments with the K Drive. It's one of the most enjoyable aspects of Fortuna to me. It's something that just adds a little bit of fun and a little bit of just extra something that makes this, again, a little different than Plains of Eidolon. Overall, again, I do have to say, Fortuna is amazing. I mean, the atmosphere is great. The story quest is fun enough and compelling enough. The characters make you feel like you have a sense of urgency to help them and to explore this place, to learn more about it so that you can help them more. Overall, I would say this honestly gets a 9 out of 10 for me. The only thing that keeps it from having a perfect score is the same problem I see with all of Warframe, is that it's really not beginner friendly. And if you're a brand new player to Warframe, you're going to have a problem kind of getting into it. It's definitely not a game for everybody because there's a huge learning curve, but once you learn it, it really becomes one of the most enjoyable experiences. And for a free-to-play game, I honestly don't think there's anything better on the market. And I know we're in the era of Fortnite, and Fortnite is probably the biggest game in the world and one of the biggest games that there's ever been. But I think that Digital Extremes really has something special, and they're really starting to uncover the true potential of Warframe with Fortuna. They're starting to have more fun with the series, giving us things like the K Drive and more goofy, fun characters to kind of interact with. There's some weird robots, and of course, legs being the MOA, really silly. But at the same time, that barrier to entry being free, the real barrier to entry comes from the learning curve of just getting started. I mean, nothing's really explained to you. It took me a little while to figure out how to get the K Drive going. they don't really tell you. They say, oh, visit Rocky or Roxy or whatever the leader of the Vent Kids names is. And I had to fast travel to her, and then find out, oh, I'd actually gotten something from completing the campaign, the quest, to allow me to do that. But if you haven't tried Warframe, I suggest trying it. Understand you're gonna have to go online, get some guides, ask people for help. Warframe definitely has one of the best communities in gaming because there's no PvP, there's nothing to be toxic about. It's a lot of people who enjoy the same game, who want more people to enjoy the same game so they can have more people to play with and more people talking about this game that they love. I have never run into a person in Warframe, and I leave public chat open almost all the time. I've never run into a person in Warframe who has been anything even remotely toxic. And it's such a welcome change from when you play COD, Destiny, anything like that, where people can be really, really toxic. Or even Fortnite, man. Don't go into public voice chat in Fortnite. It's bad. Overwatch, same story. But Warframe has one of the, if not the best community I've ever seen. So definitely give this a try. I would highly recommend Fortuna. Understand there's going to be some learning you have to do, but if you can get past that, you should have one really, really good time with this expansion. All right, guys, if you watched today, if you enjoyed this review, it's kind of a lot longer than the things I normally do. I really hope that you might hit that like button for me. That always helps out the channel. And if you are new here, feel free to subscribe. I'm going to be doing things on a couple different games coming up, including Warframe, Destiny 2 Black Armory is coming out, and most importantly to me, Pokemon Let's Go Eevee and Let's Go Pikachu. So we want to see that, and we're going to have a lot of stuff coming up on this channel pretty soon. I'm not going to be sleeping much, but yeah, guys, I do want to thank you again for watching today. Make sure to check out the links below for things like links to social, all that stuff. And guys, I hope to see you soon. Take care.